Good afternoon. It's Keeving cider part 3. So it's a few weeks since I did the other 2 cider videos, and I had a little look in at the vessel, fermentation vessel today, and it looks like the Chapeau Brun has formed on one vessel but not on the other, so I don't know why one should be different to the other. So in order to keep the Keeving experiment going, I'm going to try to tap the cider away from under the Chapeau and put it into some fresh fermentation vessels and see what happens. Join me in the shed. Right, so if you remember from the last films, the idea is the pectin in the apples forms a pectin jelly which forms in the cider, and as the gentle fermentation starts, these bits of jelly should coagulate, almost form a roof on top of the cider, and you need to take the cider away from underneath that before it starts to ferment, because the fermentation will break what's called the Chapeau. Yeah, so on this vessel you can see just a layer which I'm hoping is the Chapeau. So I'm going to try to decant it out through this tap and let the level gently stop, and we'll see what is left. In this one that I set off at exactly the same time, you'll see there's no cap at all, and actually it started to ferment. So this is, although it had exactly the same treatment as this may have worked, this may not have. So this is brewing much more like a traditional cider that I would normally brew, and this is producing possibly like a keeved cider. So let's dive in and have a look. So you're looking right into the top of that 60-litre vessel, and you can see, yeah, I'm touching, it's a very gelatinous top. So we'll see what that looks like as the level drops. And there's no gas particularly coming through it, whereas here is the airlock on the cider that doesn't seem to have formed the Chapeau, and that's doing a gentle bubble. While that's running out, I'll just reflect on the fermentation. So if you remember when I started, you meant to try to do this when it's really cold, so that the fermentation is retarded as much as possible. And which is what I did, and we had a freezing cold snap like the rest of the country, where it was -4, 5, 6, 7 and below that for at least a week. So my understanding is that the brown cap, the Chapeau Brun, would have usually formed maybe quicker than it did, because it often talks about having to do the first racking almost, you know, certainly under a week. Well, I think this has been, or maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I'd have to go back to the videos to have a look at when we did it. But anyway, I understand the keeving conditions would have been textbook, but we'll see what's going on with this. I've just sped up the pour because the cap seems to be holding together in a very solid sort of way. So I'm just taking a risk and letting the cider rack a little bit quicker. Just going to see how it's going. God, that is sweet. And very sweet. So nothing has fermented out of that yet, or very little. Slight mustiness, but I don't think at this stage anything to worry about. It's lost some of the oily texture it had when it was first pressed, but there's definitely something very different going on there. There's a fair bit of sludge coming through now. Do you know what? I'm not going to worry about that because the cap is so solid. Right, what I'm going to do is call that a day there. This is just a little bit of water with sterilizer in, just to keep the airlocks nice and clean. Right, let's go and have a look at this Chapeau Brun, shall we? And see what it is it looks like. I'll take it outside, slightly better light. Okay, so I've brought the vessel outside. I've got a little thing here. I'll just see if I can spoon some of it out. There, look at that. That is indeed a jelly, isn't it? Sort of a strange apple flavoured jelly. What you can see as well is, I mean, it takes a phenomenal amount of volume out of the process as well. Yeah, there was no way this was going to break. It is at least 3 inches thick. So I'd be really interested if anybody who knows what they're doing in terms of keeving cider could reflect upon what we've achieved here. There's a bit of me that doesn't want to waste all this. I'm almost tempted to. I've heard people talk about sort of recycling this and almost having a second keeve. So I'm tempted to chuck the cider that started to ferment into here and give it a stir up and get the whole thing going again. But I don't know if that makes sense or not. But it seems a lot to waste. Or shall I keep the other one going as normal cider and throw this away? I really don't know. But look at it all. interesting. What I've decided to do then, for the sake of academic purity, I haven't mixed that Chapeau Brun gel with that other cider that seems to have started to ferment. I'm going to let that go ahead as normal, see what happens, see if there's still time for a Chapeau to form. I don't think it will. There is a slight gel covering on the top, but I'm not going to fuss with it. Just going to let that go, see what happens. Whereas the others I've racked, the fermentation really hasn't started. Of course, we're chucking away the gel. That's taking a hell of a lot of nutrients away from the cider, so its fermentation will not be as quick or probably as complete. So I'm just going to leave that now. That's it until, when do you reckon? Where are we now? Getting towards Christmas, end of December. We're at sort of 20th, I think. And I don't think I'll look in at that now until probably February or March, unless the fermentation seems to be going too quick. It will need another racking at least before bottling, but I think that'll be when the weather warms up. So for the purposes of this video and Keeving part 3, I think that's it. So thank you again for tuning in and watching. I hope you don't mind that the channel covers a whole range of topics. It is all the things I get up to here on our small farm, not just the machines. But your comments are very encouraging. Thank you very much, and see you next time.